music. There's a particular form of resilience that doesn't come across as tough at all. It's understated. It's gentle. It lurks behind gentle grins and courteous chuckles. It's the sort of resilience evident in folks who claim, quote, bros. Despite the weariness in their gaze, the weight on their spirit, and the fragility gripping their emotions. Chances are, you've encountered such a person. Perhaps that's you. These are the individuals who arrive on time, who lend a hand to those around them, who keep society functioning even as their personal life crumbles bit by bit. They avoid becoming a load on anyone. Instead, they master the art of donning a facade that fools just about everyone. A facade that signals all is well, regardless of the reality. From a mental health perspective, it's a captivating yet tragic pattern. Those who act as if everything's fine aren't deceivers in the typical way. They're guardians. They're shielding their inner selves from exposure. Music. This pattern often begins young. Typically in early years, they discovered that revealing feelings brought repercussions. Perhaps tears went unanswered. Perhaps pleas for support earned a directive to harden up. Perhaps voicing hurt led to discipline or dismissal, because others supposedly suffered more, rendering their emotions insignificant. As a result, they adjusted. They figured out that quiet was preferable to honesty, that poise trumped breaking down, and that feigning wellness was essential for sustaining connections, careers, standing, and occasionally their very self-image. Isn't it odd? Society applauds resilience for concealing suffering, yet we seldom pause to consider the toll it exacts. Each instance of bottling up feelings isn't merely concealing sorrow. It's stifling authenticity. It's splintering one's core to conform to society's rigid idea of normalcy. In psychology, this is termed emotional suppression, a widespread strategy for handling stress in grown-ups. Research indicates that frequent suppressors view openness as frailty. Yet the irony lies in how suppression deepens isolation from relationships and even one's own essence. It forms a hushed cycle, fueled by dread of criticism, dread of dismissal, dread of the fallout if the facade falters, if only briefly. Thus, they persist in grinning. They share upbeat snapshots, offer upbeat replies, attend obligations, toss out quips. They perform the role so convincingly that they occasionally convince themselves. But at the core, a subtle weariness builds. Not the sort rest can mend, but the variety born from impersonating another self over extended periods. An inner conflict swells within those who fake contentment. Outwardly, they seem steady, serene, perhaps even elegant. Yet underneath churns an unending tempest. Their thoughts turn into an arena of conflict between their true nature and the persona they deem necessary. You might spot them through subtle cues. They're the types who brush aside praise, who steer talks away from depth. The ones who dismiss discomfort with lines like, just worn out, or no big deal. Experts label this emotional masking, the practice of projecting fitting sentiments while burying the unfit ones. It's a protective strategy that emerges in upbringings where bearing emotions felt risky or discouraged. Gradually, masking turns routine. It merges with selfhood, and at that point, they lose awareness of the pretense. It simply defines them. But what's striking and frequently misjudged is that these individuals aren't frail. They're endurers. Each grin amid torment employs the sole emotional strategies they've acquired to navigate a reality that seldom accommodates unfiltered candor. They've mastered taming the outer environment via mastery of their inner realm. If they project tranquility, perhaps chaos stays at bay. If they seem stable, perhaps stability holds. Yet restraint always demands payment. It may not surface right away, but eventually, body and psyche start resisting. Emotional suppression correlates with elevated tension, weakened defenses against illness, and signs of worry or melancholy. After all, overlooked feelings don't vanish. They linger. They bide time in still instants, in restless evenings, in the commute following grueling hours. They emerge when the clamor fades and the facade wavers, if only momentarily, unleashing all that's been interred. It's hardly rare for those faking okayness to face what experts term emotional exhaustion, a persistent fatigue not from overexertion but from underfeeling. It arises when emotional reserves fuel upkeep, upholding facades, upholding steadiness, keeping your distance from those painful aspects of yourself that are too raw to confront. Yet, there's a vital and uplifting truth here. Acting like everything's fine isn't a forever trap. Sure, it's a protective strategy, but one you can dismantle. And it all kicks off with something deceptively straightforward and scary: truthfulness. Not the dramatic sort where you spill your guts to the world, but the subtle version. The one that emerges when you quietly own up to yourself that you're worn out, that something feels absent, that you're far from fine, and that's perfectly acceptable. This tiny step toward authenticity packs a punch because it breaks the pattern. It halts the habit of hiding your feelings from becoming your entire identity. Once you let yourself experience what you've dodged, a change occurs. Your tension eases, your thoughts settle. You start linking back to those hidden pieces of yourself you'd tucked away just to get by. Psychologist Carl Jung once noted, "What you resist persists." It's a nudge that ignoring discomfort doesn't wipe it away. Instead, it buries it further into your psyche, where it sneaks in and influences your actions without your awareness. No wonder folks who fake being all right often struggle with genuine bonds. They yearn for closeness yet shrink from it, since true connection demands openness, and openness strips away the facade. They tend to draw in dynamics where they're the helper, the listener, the problem solver, the pillar, yet balk at accepting the same support. It's less risky that way. By focusing on others, they sidestep their own concealed scars. Still, at their core, they long to be truly recognized, not for their poise or resilience, but for their full, messy self, the tender, fearful, flawed elements they guard so fiercely. Funny how that works, right? Those who appear toughest usually crave compassion the most. The ones who never seek aid are often the ones who need it desperately. And those faking composure are hauling the heaviest loads, the invisible kind that no one spots. Society seldom honors exposure, though. We're immersed in a world that prizes grind over recovery, toughness over tenderness, facade over realness. We urge folks to stay upbeat, push forward, never quit. But we seldom say it's fine to pause, to inhale deeply, to confess exhaustion. So they soldier on until they shatter. And when that happens, the surprise is universal. I never guessed they were hurting. Naturally, the outer world only catches what you reveal. But here's a reality many overlook. Faking wellness doesn't build resilience. It erases you. And fading into the background is a silent agony, since how can support reach you if no one knows you're sinking? How can anyone grasp you if they only encounter your disguise? There's real courage in owning that you're not all right. It doesn't spell crumbling into hopelessness or broadcasting your struggles. It means getting authentic with yourself enough to quit battling your inner world. After all, maintaining the act is draining, but embracing your humanity sets you free. Being genuine lets you drop the performance. No more suiting up in defenses each day. You can simply be, with all your inconsistencies, flaws, wonders, and aches. That's true fortitude, not the endurance to keep up the charade, but the power to let it go. Of course, shifting gears is tough. For those who've worn the mask for years, authenticity seems perilous, like stepping into the chill bare-skinned. But gradually, candor turns into comfort. It fosters security. It feels like belonging. Perhaps that's the heart of the path, not chasing flawlessness or constant cheer, but finding serenity. Serenity born from accepting that you don't need to be put together. That truth doesn't diminish you. It liberates you. When you cease the pretense of being fine, you rediscover yourself, and you invite others to do the same. That link, that openness, that mutual realness, that's where recovery starts. If someone sustains the okay act too long, they end up split between dual worlds, the version they present outward and the one they quietly battle within. Initially, that divide seems workable, like juggling parallel narratives in your head, one for coping, one for reality. But as time wears on, those selves pull farther apart. Soon, you lose track of what's authentic. Experts in psychology term this emotional discord often, the strain born when your outward actions clash with your inner truth. It's like grinning through a shattered soul. The more you endure it, the more detached you grow, not from lack of sensation, but because emotions turn overwhelming. There's an odd solace in the pretense. It offers illusionary command. When chaos looms, your veneer serves as armor. You can navigating turmoil without showing your unease is possible. You might chat idly to conceal the depths beneath. Yet, there's a price to pay, one that accumulates quietly as years pass. Acting like everything's fine can shield you right then and there, but it severs your link to your inner emotional guide. Gradually, you lose faith in your own reactions. You find yourself doubting your discomfort. You even convince yourself that if others overlook it, perhaps it doesn't exist after all. That's the real peril. For when feelings are brushed aside for too long, they don't simply fade away. They shift and morph into frustration, exhaustion, indifference, or even bodily ailments. Our bodies can't deceive. They reveal the unvarnished reality. Even if our speech falls short, at times this manifests as persistent fatigue. Other times it appears through migraines, tightness in the muscles, or unexplained bursts of sorrow. It's your system pleading, enough with the facade. Folks bearing this unseen burden often grow numb to delight. Pleasures that once sparked joy now seem subdued, akin to sounds muffled in a submerged world. It's not indifference on their part. Rather, their emotional reserves have been sapped from upholding the pretense for so long. From an outsider's view, though, they seem capable, perhaps thriving. They're the steady types, the trustworthy ones, the folks who always seem composed. But beneath that serene surface lurks someone unraveling gradually. A tough reality of this habit is that those who feign wellness often earn commendations. They're lauded for their fortitude, their steadiness, their knack for pressing on regardless. Yet, seldom do others see that apparent toughness could be mere bottled-up restraint. This raises a thorny issue. Why do we so often opt for pretense over candor? It stems from societal upbringing. Early on, we're schooled in which sentiments are welcome and which aren't. We get praised for staying even-keeled, courteous, and upbeat. But voicing grief, rage, or anxiety typically gets us brushed off, scolded, or overlooked. Thus, we adjust. We grasp that affection and belonging come laced with expectations, so we shape ourselves to fit. Eventually, this turns instinctive. We step into grown-up life already skilled at masking our inner world. But one key insight escapes many. Each veil we don pulls us further from bonds, not only with those around us, but with our core selves. True links demand honesty, and honesty demands vulnerability. Yet, past wounds make that gamble seem overwhelming. So we pick the mirage of security. We grin amid suffering because it's familiar. We utter, quote 6, to sidestep clashes. We bottle up instead of voicing out, having discovered that quiet stings less than dismissal. In the process, we gradually diminish our essence. There's a saying, what you conceal, you can't mend. And therein lies the irony. The deeper we bury it, the more adrift we drift. Recovery doesn't wait for your preparedness. It kicks off when you drop the act, when you quit staging poise to ease others' minds. It ignites when you grant yourself leave to sense it all, regardless of comprehension from anyone else. Here's the core. Facade might safeguard your facade, but genuineness guards your spirit. When you permit yourself to declare, be cardied, quote, ewo. A remarkable shift occurs. You invite empathy from outside and within. It doesn't diminish you. It affirms your humanity. From a mental health angle, owning your emotions is a unifying step. It mends the fractured aspects of who you are, the actor and the authentic self, the cover and the core. This mending brings back a fullness that pretense erodes. Among the most freeing epiphanies is grasping that truthfulness and resilience aren't at odds. They're facets of the same force, shown in varied ways. The grit to beam through agony deserves respect. But the grit to confess agony, that's true change. Often, mending skips the dramatic moves. It sparks with modest truth-telling, such as replying to, I quote 9, with, quote, 10, or letting tears flow without a sorry, or pausing not as a reward, but as necessity. Sometimes it's merely skipping the forced grin when none comes naturally. There's profound restoration in rawness, even if it's untidy. For ceasing the show clears room for existence to touch you genuinely. You let elation hit true, not scripted. You let grief pass freely, not ensnare. You let others cherish you, not the veneer. That's where ties begin to mend. And the twist? When you cease acting fine, those who matter won't flee. They draw nearer. Because realness pulls them in. Gravity draws in those who connect with you as you truly are, not the facade you put up. Folks often worry that bearing their struggles will push people away, yet the truth is, it usually brings them closer. Openness builds connection. It whispers, "I'm just like you." In that mutual imperfection, barriers start to crumble. Sure, not everyone gets it. Some shy away from feelings because they've learned to bury theirs deep. That's fine. You aren't tasked with easing their unease. Your job is to own your reality. Recovery isn't flashy. It's gentle, understated. It unfolds in those tiny instances when you let yourself exhale without the act, when you quit hurrying past the quiet, when you drop the urge to justify your sorrow, when you cease striving to convince everyone of your composure, grasping a deep insight. The ones who count don't demand flawlessness. They crave your authenticity. And authenticity stems from genuineness. Something fascinating occurs when folks finally shed the disguise. They unearth forgotten facets of their essence. Abruptly, simple joys regain significance. Dawn's glow, chuckles, creativity, stillness. Existence regains its vibrancy, not through total repair, but via raw truth. And truth, even if it stings, liberates. You come to understand that mere stability isn't the aim. Wholeness means embracing your inner conflicts calmly. That's the true pursuit. It demands effort. It requires endurance. Gradually, the charade diminishes, replaced by something far more resilient. Self-belief. You grow confident that your feelings won't shatter you, that your grief won't consume you entirely, that your reality, however burdensome, merits space. The greater your self-faith, the less you rely on pretense. That's the turning point. You shift from superficial show to inner harmony. You abandon seeking outside approval for cherishing inner calm. You forgo faking bliss and begin experiencing it softly, truly, profoundly. Perhaps that's the destination all along, not flawlessness, not constant cheer, but serenity. Serenity unbound by illusion. Serenity that welcomes grief, delight, bewilderment, and insight simultaneously. For humanity was never meant to stay composed eternally. It was about mastering the art of cradling every shade of feeling without regret. In essence, the most captivating souls you'll encounter are those who've quit the act. They've navigated shadows and now face them unafraid. They've reconciled with their flaws. And that reconciliation shines ineffably, unmistakably. They've ditched the chase for superficial normalcy and embraced sufficient reality. So if you've been feigning wellness, consider this your subtle nudge. No more is necessary. No more hauling the universe's weight to demonstrate resilience. No more grinning to soothe others. No more concealing your fragile sides. You're permitted to speak plainly. You're permitted to be chaotic. You're permitted to be authentic, for authenticity mends. And once you embrace your complete self, not the edited one, not the polished facade, you'll draw in a tranquility that fakery could never provide. Perhaps the objective was never wellness anyway. Perhaps it was realizing that amid your unrest, you remain deserving of affection, repose, connection. For while pretense shields from ache, it also bars delight, and existence is far too brief for veiled living. You needn't be well to be complete, just truthful. For when pretense ends, you transcend mere endurance, you truly thrive. Music, music.